bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Welcome, Fade to Black. How you doing? Today is Monday, February 5th, 2024. Let's do this, man. Coming to you from, yes, a very wet, cold, rainy, and flooded Los Angeles and the Western United States and Southern California right now is getting tested. And we deal with everything out here, earthquakes and fires. And when it rains, just like any place else, it's tough. We have a lot of flooding, mudslides, houses being washed away, rescues and things that are going on. And even today, for me, I've got flooded and washed out streets. I jumped in the Jeep and went out and got some emergency rations. And I just want to make sure, right? But anyway, dealing with it out there, it is absolutely crazy. So if you're listening from Southern California, you know what I'm talking about. We'll get through this, right? The sun will eventually come out. But stay safe. It is very, very treacherous out there. This is no joke. And I just want to remind everybody that we had over 10 inches of rain in the last 12 hours, all at once. And it continues to rain about a half an inch an hour. So that it's crazy. Just imagine that getting dumped on you all at once. All right, so here we are. It is Monday night. I've lost power a couple of times today, just quickly, but it did happen. I lost the internet a couple of times today, but we're back. We're solid. I've got hot coffee, and I've got Gari Jones with us tonight, live from the United Kingdom. He's with us. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Pentyrch Incident, and this is one of my favorite cases, and it is new. It's a recent case from 2016. We'll be talking about every angle. I've got some images and some video that Gari has sent me for the show tonight. Tomorrow night, Preston Dennett is with us. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about UFOs and their sightings above drive-in theaters. Yeah, he's got over 100 documented cases of UFOs at the drive-ins and not on the big screen. And we'll be doing that tomorrow night. Looking forward to it with Preston Dennett. Wednesday night, Dr. Thomas Vallone is going to be here. We're going to be talking about Tesla's electrotherapy and some other stuff. And then Thursday night is Dr. Bruce Solheim. And we're going to discuss ET to human integration. And that is Thursday night right here on Fade to Black. I want to remind everybody of a couple of things. One, this weekend is the Conscious Life Expo. After the show on Thursday night, I'll be headed down to the Hilton to get set up for the show. It kicks off on Friday morning. If you haven't gotten your tickets, go to consciouslifeexpo.com. The links are below. Look through the schedule. We've got my disclosure lunch, which I think is sold out. The George Norrie Forum. There's so many different events. We have the award ceremony, the book awards. Expo's Got Talent on a Saturday night. It is a fully packed weekend. Get your tickets. And the tickets are actually pretty affordable. So get your tickets now and come and see us in bright and sunny Southern California. The sun is going to be out for the Conscious Life Expo. Tonight, it is Gari Jones. Gari joins us. We're going to be talking about the Pentyrch Incident. He's involved in a lot of different investigations, and we'll see if we can squeeze some of his other work in tonight too as well. But there's so much to cover on Pentyrch. It's going to be tough to get it all in tonight, but we're going to do our best. He's on a personal mission dedicated to the exploration and investigation of a diverse array of captivating subjects. His keen interests span UFO ET phenomena, ancient history, false flag events, and forbidden knowledge and sciences. Over the past 7 years, he has dedicated UFO investigations to compelling and impactful evidence, contributing to the documentation of significant cases such as Pentyrch, Denbigh Lights, and the Caldicot Triangle. We might even talk a little bit about that red orb tonight. All of that and much more. His links to his YouTube channel and his Rumble channel are below over on social media and on our website. I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black. Gary, is this the first time you've been on the show?
On your show, yes.
I swear I thought that I had you on before, and I went and looked. So, well, this is the deal. It's like I'm misspelling his name. I'm doing something wrong. He's been on the show before, and you haven't. I've just confirmed that, so you get the first-time guest disclaimer. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. Gary, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends, and where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends. But we're going to end as friends. But you have to accept to move forward.
Yeah, that's good enough. That's fine. That's
you'll click on anything. So okay. So here we were talking earlier. And and I'm glad that you have checked out some of my and our stuff that we do out here in talking about these cases, because I've had a bona fide severe interest in this case since I first heard about it. And jumping into it and looking at it, what I appreciate the most about Pentyrch is that it's modern. This is a recent case. Witnesses, documentation, the military, everything is still current. And it's for the same reasons that, for me, Rendlesham is such a big case, because it's a modern case, even though it's 1980, right? 81, it's modern. Everybody is still around, and there's evidence still to be gathered with that, and we can do that. And as so goes with this case, the information continues, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it continues to grow, and it continues to expand, and hopefully in the future there'll be some really big announcements, but I can't go into those right now. But there are some things I can go into, and we'll certainly expand upon what you've learned from before as well. Trust me, we've got some interesting things to discuss tonight.
Let's start before the case. Let's start at the beginning for you and your interest in this subject. Pentyrch happened in 2016, which is almost 7 years ago now. I can't believe that much time has passed, but it has. Were you already investigating this, and did you have an interest in this type of phenomena before the case happened?
Well, just say quickly, on the 26th of February, it'll be the 8-year anniversary, so it's 8 years nearly now. But I was already researching UFOs and UFO phenomena, paranormal stuff, and things like that, even before I became an investigator. I've always had an interest in this kind of thing. But over 20 years, I've been researching things like this, reading a lot of books and just reading a lot of things and seeing what people have learned. And I've had some experiences myself throughout my life. So I had my first sighting when I was 7, saw another one when I was 21, and seen some really bizarre, strange things in between all that. So I know that these things are real, and there's a whole wide world around us that we can't see or are not aware of, but it interacts with us. But at some point about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I thought I'm going to get into these UFO sightings, because that's really where a lot of the good evidence is, and it's something I think I know I can definitely make a contribution to. So that's where I started, and who would have thought it? Not long after being involved in any of that stuff, the Pentyrch Incident happens not too far from where I live.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Can you take me back to what did you see when you were 7?
I lived in an area called Caerphilly, and there was a council estate called Llantrisant Park. I had a house there with my parents, of course, and it was summertime. My parents would let me stay out late, and in the summertime, of course, especially after dark, as long as I stayed in the street. But they let me stay out there. My friends and I were just playing, minding our own business, just playing kids like kids do. And someone just pointed out, look over there. And we all looked over, and there it was, this bizarre oval egg-looking shaped craft. I mean, it was very sort of oval like that. And the lights were the thing I've always remembered. It's like with lava flow. It's moving like lava from a volcano, but the lights are doing this. They're going from red to yellow to orange and back and forth like that, glowing seamlessly in one to the other. And it's just hovering silently. It's not making any noise. It's not. And we've seen planes and helicopters as kids fly over our neighborhood many a time. And it's not like we didn't know what they were, but I think we watched it for about maybe 3 minutes, and one of my friends even jokingly said it was a UFO, and we didn't know what the significance of a UFO. We just knew it meant unidentified flying object, things you see on TV, or you read about your parents read about in the papers. But it was amazing, and I think we all just stopped for a few seconds, and some of us turned back, and the thing was gone. It just vanished out into thin air.
Did you guys talk about it afterwards? And was there, I know you're 7, it's not like, you can remember a whole lot, but was there any mention about it in the papers or the news?
Not to my recollection, no.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about this stuff, where the sightings that I've had, and it show's not about me, it's about you, but the sightings that I've had with people. And I thought to myself, this is going to be on the news tonight, right? This will be in the paper tomorrow. And there's nothing. That kind of freaks me out. Either people aren't looking up, which I get, right? They're looking down all the time. Maybe it's that, or maybe it was just for us. Maybe we were the only ones that did see it. Which is also very, very interesting. What did you see when you were 21?
Where I'm currently living now, up in Merthyr, Tydfil, I was coming home from work late one night. I was coming down the back street of a road, and there was a young girl with me. She was going to her place. I think she was like 18 or 19. But anyway, she was going home, and I was going home. I couldn't have been off the bus no more than 10 seconds. And as I was walking down, looked up, and it was like, you see rain clouds. You've got rain there now, so you see those low, thick, heavy clouds. So we had something like that, but the rain had stopped. But during that time, we saw something coming over, and we looked up, and there it was, this, how do I describe it? If you imagine it shaped like that, like a V shape, but much more spread out from end to end, and it had these really strange lights going towards the center of it, flickering like diamonds simmering in a light of its own. And I only saw it for about 10 seconds, the two of us did, but if I had to say how wide this thing was, it was like 600 feet wide, and it moved silently, just went back into the clouds, didn't even disturb them. It didn't create any noise. It just came over our heads. I don't know how high it was up. It may have been a couple of hundred feet, or maybe a couple of thousand feet, or just below the cloud line, But it was huge. And I tell you, I was like, we were just like,
Yeah, I'm jealous of those. I haven't seen anything like that. And the only triangle that was a V shape. That's really cool and low. The only thing that I've ever seen like that, I found out after the fact. I took a picture of it on film, and was able to look at it later and see that it was a triangle. At the time that I saw it, it was just a black dot, right? It was up very, very high. But I took a couple of pictures of it, got some lucky shots. But I haven't seen, I am waiting. People hear me talk about it all the time. It's going to happen. I'm going to do that. I'm going to step off a bus. I'm going to look up, and it's going to be right there. And what do you do? Because it always happens when you least expect it, right? What was going through your mind?
Well, at the time, I just got off the bus, and my mind was just to go home. But I mean, I literally couldn't have been off it no more than 10, 15 seconds tops. And as we're coming off, we're just like that. And then all of a sudden, we get the sense there's something above us. We look up, and there it is. It's just like, what? You don't say nothing. You don't do nothing. You're just taking it in. You just can't react. You don't do anything, Jimmy. You just stare at the thing. You just want to take it all in. And then maybe if you get a sense later on, you think, oh, there's some reality balancing back in my brain. Maybe I got to take a picture or something. But it don't work like that. Everybody thinks you're just going to take a selfie when it's there. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, it don't work like that. I'm sorry. But anyone who's genuinely seen something amazing and majestic like that is not going to just suddenly get out a camera and start reporting like a journalist in the middle of some area. It just doesn't work like that.
So let's talk about Pentyrch. And if we go back to 2016, I want to set the stage for the event. And apparently, there were things that were already happening in the area in the days before the actual craft landed, or what it may have been shot down, right? So we'll talk about that too as well. Very interesting. But leading up to it, there was already things going on in the area, right?
Yeah, this started around the 22nd or 23rd of February of that year, 2016. Where I live, because I'm only 20 miles as the bird flies from the Pentyrch area itself, and there were convoys of trucks, jeeps, and some even light armored vehicles I remember seeing going up and down the main motorways of the area. There were low-flying vehicles going around, helicopters and planes. Just literally, we'd be at be at the bus stop or in the middle of the street, and it just boom. You know, what the hell is, you know? It was such a build-up. And one of the things I've now discovered also is, I may as well get into this part, is there were some planes that were circling already in Pentyrch that were circling the area and doing figure eights. One was a plane called Snake 48. Its tail number is ZZ418. That one is actually a part of a E3 Century program called ISTAR, Intelligence, Surveillance, Targeting, Acquisition, Reconnaissance, designed to actually give up-to-date information for military people on the ground and whatever assets they've got in the air for anything they're trying to target and locate. But before the night on that happened, the planes during the build-up were circling the area, and another one would come along and take over while the other one refueled. What was its tail number now? ZG996, and it was an Army Air Corps on that one. And they just kept circling the same sodding area all the time, never leaving it alone for 3 days and nights. So you've got all this military build-up with trucks and convoys and flying planes and everything else. And, of course, they're really getting interested in the area where the actual craft appeared for Kaz, Clark, and Dave. So, yeah, that's one of the first bizarre things you learn when you look into this case from the timeline of events.
Does it feels like, I hate to do the Hollywood comparison, but it feels strangely similar, doesn't it, to Close Encounters, where they're anticipating the arrival of something. Is that a stretch? But that's the way it feels to me.
If it feels that way, it's because what it tells us is that they've been able to track these things and monitor these things, whatever frequencies or energies of whatever it is they're doing. They're able to be tracking them and monitoring them, and they obviously can prepare to get their assets in place or people out the way. So, no, I wouldn't say it's like Close Encounters, but I can understand why you think it that way. But what it just tells me is that they know these things are coming. they've been tracking them and monitoring for a long time. They just obviously improved. They've just improved their technology as time goes on.
Now, what happens next did you see a location where the military was gathering? Was it at a specific point? And what happens next?
Well, obviously, they were probably setting up their checkpoints up and around the area of Llantrisant, Pentyrch, and they obviously were using RAF St. Athens as their head office base. They had to be using that. But what we've also discovered is that they were very likely now disguising police officers as military people as police officers, because the police didn't know anything about this. And I'll get to that later on. But obviously they were using RAF St. Athens because after a number of days of the air vehicles, the aircraft, the helicopters and the planes involved, the Chinooks and the Apaches and everything, it all came from North England straight down here. And what it also shows me now is that they obviously know when these things are going to be appearing, because they put their vehicles in place and their people in place just at the right time. This thing's starting to happen. So, they know a lot more than we do, but we're catching on to them.
So this happened on the evening of the night of February 26th. And
no, it started on. I would have to say the build-up started on the real build-up started on the 25th, around from 9 o'clock, then up to midnight. But the real thing happened early hours of 2:15, maybe. The original, I say around that time, sometime after 2. The actual craft appeared before Kaz and Dave. I mean, would you like me to build you up to that? How that happened?
Actually, yes, because the timeline, again, that I have tried to follow over the years, and you've listened to me talk about this case, is that it was on the evening of the 26th. Are you saying it was the morning of the 27th at 2 a.m.?
No, the early hours of the 26th is when this thing really started to happen. The main event, as I call it, around after 2 a.m. Obviously, Kaz Clark and her neighbors and friends had realized those planes had been circling and causing a nuisance. They didn't understand what was going on. So they'd contacted the MOD. They'd asked the whales online. There was an email that was written to them. Nobody's answering them. Nobody's getting back to them. No one's saying nothing. And then that night they decided, Kaz, Dave, and a neighbor of hers, Donna, a friend of the family, decided that they were going to do a sky watch. Now, this was on the 25th, late night, so probably around getting into the late hours of the night. So they're watching for a few hours with a fire pit lit up and everything. And all they're seeing is this plane. Remember the one I said has been circling? And it's been doing that for a few hours now, and nothing's really going on, or nothing terribly exciting. But Donna's decided to go in and make some hot drinks and get warm and everything. And Kaz is getting ready to sort of call it a night because it's nothing really happening. But then as she's getting ready to go in, around just after 2 a.m., I'll say, this loud plane comes in, and it's really loud, ear-piercing sound. And David, who's got a bit of knowledge on military aircraft, he instantly spots what it is. It's got this big mushroom thing on the back of it, and it says that's an E3 Sentry, one of those AWACS, or as you call them. And it starts circling with the other plane. So now things are getting a bit interesting here, and it's like, what is that thing doing? And then as time goes on, it gets more exciting, because after some point, the 3 lights start to appear, a red light, then 3 lights, and it starts appearing in the field where they saw this thing coming in, and they get really excited now. They know this is what they're waiting for. They run into the gate of the farmland, and then they watch from there, and, well, Kaz has really gone into the detail about this one, but this thing comes down on an oblique angle and is turning counterclockwise, and it's moving across the fields, and at some point it's let off a greenish orb of some kind, which comes over to the left sort of side, and from their point of view anyway, and it's just sort of bouncing around, as Kaz has called it, like Winnie the Pooh, you know, from the Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, just sort of moving around like that. But then at some point then, David was watching the top of this thing, and he says he's seen 15 to 20 of these barrel-shaped orbs coming out of it. Car-sized barrel-shaped orbs, and I'll get into this. But as that's happening, Kaz is watching the bottom, and she thinks it's landing. It's going to land. You know, it's landing. And there's a hill that rises into the third field, and I'll explain about the numbers of the fields now. But as it gets close, it lets off this hand of lightning, like if you're trying to stop yourself from falling, like that. It's like it sort of rights itself a little, or just like it's trying to stop itself from falling. And it's white orange kind of color, and it's during that time you can see if you're there, you can see real detail. It lights up a bit of the corner of the object, and you can tell it's like it's got a real sort of solid rock-like formation, so a sort of rocky surface look to it. I suppose Kaz will be able to give you more description of it, but it was doing then. These other planes came over, C-17s and Hercules aircrafts. And as she's looking up, she looks over, and the lights on the craft, which lit up at one point, just while that was happening, dimmed. Like it just turned them off. And yeah, during that time, the green object has strobed to the planes to say, like, you know, come on, come follow me. And that's led it northwest to Llantrisant area, northwest from the fields direction. And while that's happening, at some point, these two barrel-shaped orbs have come over to Kaz and Dave, and Kaz is standing on the 5-bar gate that leads into the field, and you can see the one red barrel has come sort of like, there's the hedge that runs along the side of the gate, and it's over there, but it's sort of like 20, 30 feet off the ground. And the other one, Kaz looks up, and it's right above her. Literally like that. And Kaz says she didn't know what else to do. She just had to look at it and wave. And this thing went from traffic red light color to like a traffic light green color instantly, and shone this light on them, especially on Kaz. And she said she felt like all this fear, she felt elated, like all the fear had been taken out of her, and she felt calm, or like there was some surreal angelic feeling of some sort, maybe. She can describe it better, but she said now that she heard a voice saying, "Tell the world what you saw. Tell the world what you've seen, or what you saw." And then the two barrels went off, and then later on in the morning story, this was run to 2:15, 2:20. I can't be dead sure on the timeline here, okay, on the times, but it's in that time frame. But then I'm just going to skip forward a bit here. Sometime after 4:20 a.m., and I know this from, I'll tell you how I know this, there's a loud explosion that comes from like 5-6 miles in the direction that green thing went. Just a huge explosion. I mean, people from around the area, those in the hospital, the Royal Glamorgan Hospital, those who worked in the industrial estate, those living in homes nearby, or those miles around, from like 5, 6, 7 miles around, heard this almighty explosion. It set off car alarms. It shook hospitals. It put smoke inside the hospital itself. You know, it literally just crazy. And then there was a Richter. We got evidence from the British Geological Survey of the Richter scales they do. This sort of like they measure and monitor the Earth. We found a little sort of a blip. It was a blip, but it was a sizable blip, saying at 4:21 a.m. on a monitoring station in Monmouth, which is like 40 miles northeast of this area, it measured that signal. And I got back to the British Geological Survey. I said, could you maybe explain to me what that is? What that little thing is there? Well, it is a transient signal, but we don't know. We can't triangulate because you need 3 positions. So I said, you don't need to triangulate. Could you maybe explain to me what's causing it? He says, well, the only thing that we could say is it's a man-made signal. And given that the only thing man was doing that night was in Pentyrch Llantrisant with all that gear up in the air and on the ground, it had to be that they have set off an incredibly powerful explosion, which we now know is true. Because even in the FOIs that the military answered originally, they said it was a simulated ordnance. But a simulated ordnance don't have any kinetic energy. It doesn't have any power. It's just a poof, it just makes a puff of smoke and simulates what simulates an explosion without all the big bangs and powerful energy that comes off it. So they've practically admitted they did do that.
There's evidence of buildings shaking, right? Yeah. There was scattered debris. There were reports that were written. Of course, the phone lines lit up. And you're right. You don't get that from some simulated military exercises, which going on in the UK, you would think that everybody would have been notified that we're going to be doing this at this such and such a time, which is what you do. You alert the public and the media so you don't freak people out.
Well, this is the thing. They tried to mix two exercises together once they realized they were actually being caught out on this. But they didn't announce anything for the 26th of February, not a single thing. And I'll try and cover this quickly because we've got a lot to talk about. But me and Kaz have done this investigation together as a team, all right? Yeah, she's a primary witness, but she's also an investigator, as I am. We're working on this together. So we have looked at freedom of information requests, of course. And I thought Kaz did an excellent job of looking at the low-flying training exercises and all the rules and regulations of what the actual army and military are allowed to do when they're doing training exercises. They're not allowed to fly, below, I think, a couple of thousand feet anyway. They're certainly not allowed to let off explosions. And they're certainly not allowed to land their aircraft without written permission from the landowners. And yet, here they are landing on the Llantrisant Common. Here they are blocking off roads. And here they are going into Smilog Woods, keeping the area for themselves. And I'm going to get to something in a minute now with new witnesses, because they actually saw what it was that was shot down in Smilog Woods. I want to cover this if I can, and maybe there's a slide to show now. But the other thing as well is that NOTAMs, if you know what they are, notice to airmen, that's a sequestering of airspace that you want for yourself in order to have an exercise, right? Now, according to the rules and regulations, they're not allowed to practice over public spaces and without express written permission, but there was none of that granted. They're certainly not allowed to, I just mentioned, they're not allowed to land their aircraft without written permission. They don't do any of this stuff, but yet on that night, they broke all their rules, all their regulations, and it's like this doesn't click with people. A military exercise wouldn't do this. And just to say this quick, we've now confirmed, get this is new information for those of you who haven't been following the case recently. The MOD have actually stated in a recent FOI we did, may have been early last year actually, but they said categorically that there were no military exercises, no low-flying air exercises, and no exercises of any kind in the area of South Wales for the whole of February 2016. So it begs the question, Jimmy, what were you doing with £3.8 billion worth of equipment in the area of Pentyrch? You had Apache helicopters, Chinook helicopters, Lynx attack helicopters, Merlin helicopters, C-17s, Hercules C-56. You had flipping Globemasters here, a NATO E-3 Sentry with an I-Star program designed to look for targets and enemies on the ground. You blocked off roads because the police now have admitted that there were no counterterrorism exercises here. You've basically every lie you've told us, we've uncovered now and got you to admit that you were wrong. And that now brings me into, is there anything you want to ask me first? Because I'm going off on a bit here.
No, man, I'm listening to all of, and something is stirring in my memory, and I'm trying to put it together. Somebody, I don't know if it was Kaz or if it was Dave, somebody that was at Kaz's house was on Fade to Black and told me their version of the story about the barrels, the green, the blue, the red, the circling, and I'm remembering all of it. I just can't remember who it was that was on the show. I can't remember.
It wouldn't be David because he's never spoken publicly. Not like
I don't. But anyway, it's fascinating to me that when from what I remember. Now I've done a lot of investigations into this case, but I remember the conversation that it was hours had gone by with this circling craft going over the fields in a perfect circle, and the phone calls that were made in. What's going on? What's going on? This isn't normal, and that's the part for me that is fascinating, and also. You left out one thing, not one thing, but that the Apaches that were flying like at grass level, right across the fields.
Yeah, I did skip. Sorry, go on.
It's things like that where you can't come in as the MOD and say nothing happened. When obviously something happened and there was a lot of activity that was going on in this area. That's why people are tired of the cover-up. Just come out and don't tell us we didn't see what we saw and we didn't hear what we heard.
Well, this is the thing. The 3 Apaches were... I'm trying to remember the details, but I know at some point Kaz and Dave had run down another area of the fields to look over the lower parts of the mountain there, and they saw in a triangle formation, 3 Apache helicopters going northwest, and that was just after all the barrel by the gates, or sometime after that anyway. But they saw that heading to the northwest, to the Llantrisant area, and maybe I can explain how I've been able to... This is a good time to get into this, actually. The area of Smilog is just as interesting in many ways because we've got a lot of evidence for both areas. Obviously, the Pentyrch area is the more interesting because of where the large craft was, and I'll talk about that now. But I just like covering Smilog because we've got a person who said, after the Apaches have gone northwest, the plane that was circling in Pentyrch went over to Smilog Woods and started circling there. It stopped, it had left the fields here and decided, I'm going to follow over there and see what they do. And we sort of got the radar returns of where they were circling. And as they were getting smaller and smaller and smaller, they seemed to be hovering in on something here. And if you look at the smaller edge of the circle there, it's very much in the area of the impact site. You know what I mean? Now, there was a man who was in hospital, very old man. He was a former RAF armorer, I believe. His daughter, Moira, I won't give her full name, but that's her first name. I spoke to her very early on when the investigations were starting to really take off. And I said, can you explain your comment here? Because you're talking about your father said that he heard gunfire, low-flying helicopters and aircraft because he knew what to listen for because he'd been working on these things much of his young adult life in his career. He said he heard gunfire first. Then he heard an loud explosion and then something maybe after it, like a boomf noise. But the explosion itself shook his bed. I mean, he's in bed. He's in one of those big hospital beds in one of these big wards, and the whole building shakes. The entire friggin' hospital shakes. This is no small hospital. We're talking a sizable building here. And he was very unnerved by it. And he was like, what are they doing out there? They're not, you're not allowed to do that. That told me, with the plane circling and the shooting of where they were aiming at into Smilog Woods, that told me they had to have been finding these things or maybe even with the green one that took the planes northwest in the beginning. That told me, trying to piece it all together, that I think they located one of these things and they decided, you know what, we're going to get our hands on this thing, or we're going to lure it out and see what we can do. And there were people who lived in the area by. You were talking about people on the phones. they said that there were some of these helicopters were hovering low. An Apache helicopter was hovering so low, he looked out his window. He could have waved at the pilot if he wanted to. So it's my guess, and this is a guess based on evidence and facts, right? What's happened is this. They've got it to come out. This thing's broken cover. And they've been able to come above the trees, as these Apaches are well known for. They can come up real quick, lock onto something, and fire a really powerful missile at it if they want to. We've been discussing whether they use like the brimstone missile on these Apaches, because they were arming them at the time or getting ready to really unload. They were putting them definitely on the Apaches, but these missiles can go subsonic speeds in an instant. Really subsonic. And then one of these Apaches has had to make an emergency landing after the explosion all the way to the Cardiff International Airport. He's literally had to fly there, and it's about a 11, 12-minute flight to get there. And he's landed, and we now know that the cockpit was on fire, and that the helicopter suffered generator failure due to, whatever this explosion was. Well, what do you think? Let's put some two and two together here, right? Why would it explode? What were they shooting at? There's nothing to shoot at unless, of course, there was an enemy there that what they considered an enemy to take it out. So yeah, and then I want to talk about Smilock Woods. Not long after that, the whole roads, paths into the place, all surrounding areas, all of a sudden now, all helicopters, all planes, and many of the military are focused right on this area. No cars can get...
Right. Does the M4 pass through this area too? The M4 was closed down too, right?
There was a major motorway that was closed down. I'm not entirely sure. It may be the M4 or the one of those major roads anyway. I can't be certain off the top of my head, but if there's a major motorway that runs through this area, and it was shut down too. One lady even said that she couldn't get through anywhere. It took her like 3 hours to get home, when it would normally take her 10 minutes. And the excuse given for all these roads being closed is that a lorry had overturned and caught fire. So okay then. I wrote to the South Wales Fire Service. I said, could you give me a chronological order of all the fires that you had to attend on the 25th and 26th of that year, and just tell me what it was. And they put a list out there. Would you believe it? There's nothing mentioned of an overturned lorry or anything being on fire during that time.
Of course not.
Is it lie uncovered?
Did they mention an Apache at Cardiff with its cockpit on fire? Probably not.
No, they didn't mention that one, because I think Cardiff International. I'm going to have to write about the Cardiff International about that one. But no, there was no mention of an Apache helicopter. No, that's a good point, actually. But let's get into Smilock now. So all the roads are closed.
Now, you mentioned, I just cut you off. Do you want me to bring up this first image?
Yeah, okay then. So how do we know something crashed there? If you can bring up, can I maybe give you an idea? I want you to look at a slide for the damaged trees, please.
That's what's up on the screen.
Let's have a look. Yeah, this is a video slide of one of the... You're going to see the video now. This is just some burn marks on a tree. This video was taken the day, I believe it was taken the day after the actual event. You'll see the video now, but I just wanted to show that so people could see that there were burn marks all around these trees. There's like 6 or 7 of these trees with weird burn marks on them.
The video is quick. Here's the video, everybody.
I'll just talk you through some of it. Yeah, so this is the strange snow that was reported on the day when cars went into the fields in Pentyrch with their neighbors and friends. And there was no weather. The weather was reporting no snow, but it was just in this area there was snow. There's some more of the burn marks. Look, and groups. You should see one of the snapped trees now. Some more silver burns there. So look, is the sound gone off?
Yeah, I turned the sound off.
All right, because it just sort of gives you an idea of how heavy that snow is coming down. But yeah, I mean, there's a longer video on our channel. I'll tell you where to find it later. But okay, so there's 6 of these trees that are snapped. mid-trunk, and these trees are like that. They're that big around, okay? There's nothing... These trees were fine before. I seen people with GoPro helmets ride their bikes down past this trail because there's a bike trail there. One of those mountain bike trails. A couple of days before, it was fine. All the trees were standing. And I even got a witness named Oscar Green who rode his bike down there all the time. They said the trees were fine before, but then afterwards he noticed that they were all snapped. He thought the council had done it. But what's interesting is this area... Yeah, those are just some more of the burn marks. I did have more slides I sent you before, but
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, but those are the trees in 2023. If you went up to the area now, you would see those white burn marks and distension marks on them, like heat from the inside of the tree has caused it to stretch out.
Right.
You would actually see that, and that's obviously some sort of focused energy on it or directed energy on it of some kind. That's not from burns or, some scorching from flame. That's actually, some microwave-like energy that's done that. And there's 6 other trees. There's 6 trees in total like that, only in that area, and the trees are dead. That area was hot with EMF. There was radiation all around it, and it lasted for about 3 years. I may as well just get into this point here. Now, not long ago, we had a witness who called Kaz Clark. He wishes to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to give his name. But he was with a friend camping up further, up the hill from Smilog Woods, or just up the top of the trail there. And I'll get to the point here. He said that, they were camping. They like their outdoor survival type of camping. They like being outdoors, whether it's winter or summer. It doesn't matter. They like that sort of thing. And they heard, first of all, what sounded like a rumbling noise. And then they heard, what sounded like an explosion of some kind. And they decided that, should we go and see what that was, not knowing exactly what may have happened? They think, is something crashed or is there something going on? They decide to walk down the trail. And as they get to the area that we call the impact site, they're looking down and they can see that there are military vehicles, there are military people, and there are at least 3 men wearing these white forensic suits. Like the sort of hazmat suits you talk about? And they're right in the area where this thing is. And the one guy described it, it's like if you take a glass Coca-Cola bottle. You ever seen the old Coke bottles with the glass ones, the sort of shaped like that, and then the pointed bit on the top there? If you take the top of that off, it looked like that in the ground. Like it had dug in quite a bit. And there were broken trees all around and, stuff like that. This thing had come in with quite a thud. So they didn't know what to make of it at first, but they thought, oh, okay, it looks like it's, it's something that's crashed here, the military. We'll break cover now. We'll come onto the road and see if there's anything we can do, or, is there anything we can help with maybe. Within no set time at all, they're grabbed by some military personnel, put down the back of a truck to hide them from what they're looking at over there. And then very quickly after they asked him, what are you doing here? They put him in the back of a truck and took their phones off them, seemed to scan them with something, which then caused a lot of the information on their phone to be deleted or reset. At the same time, they're driven out of the forest area, away from this place, and told never to go back there. Don't go back there. And I think it must have been until daybreak they decided to go back up and get their stuff, because they were really shaken by this. They were physically... This is the thing that Kaz has really highlighted. If this was an exercise, you would have every right to be there. They couldn't stop you being there. You could walk right up and have a picnic next to what they were doing, because it's public place. In a public place, that's what the laws state. It's like that's what they are. But these people were physically manhandled and assaulted, intimidated, and then forcibly removed from the area after obviously seeing something they didn't want to see. Now, I should point out something else that we've also discovered. There is another witness. His name is Jacob Coleman. He saw 2 Apaches in a sort of standoff with one of these green objects. And he thought something was going to happen. And he has gone public with that. But it's just interesting that we've got green objects in this area with Apache helicopters and all this incredible stuff going on.
Let me. I want to go back to. I'm showing this here. This is the red barrel-shaped object with an Apache in the background. On the left side, you see the green one. Let's go back to the campers for a second, if we can, Gary. When you describe a Coke bottle with its top lopped off, lodged into the ground,
that was his description, yeah.
Yeah. Do you kind of feel like it could have been one of the barrel-shaped objects that was crashed into the ground? Does it feel like that? Because the barrel-shaped objects and the bottom of a Coke bottle feels kind of the same to me. I don't want to put words in the witness's mouth or yours, but something feels similar to me.
It may well have been the same. It may have been a different shape. I mean, these things come in all shapes and sizes. But like I said, I can only just tell you what the witness saw. According to him, it was a sort of Coca-Cola bottle shape with the top bit cut off. It's a very similar shape to what you're looking at there. So maybe it was damaged when it came down. I mean, I can speculate to all the differences in the shapes, but it's clearly obvious it wasn't. No, yeah, he said it didn't have wings or it didn't have propellers. So this thing wasn't a helicopter or a plane. Whatever that thing was, it caused 6 trees to snap mid-trunk, clean. It broke a lot of canopies off the tops of the trees, which are like 60, 70 feet tall in Pentyrch, in Smilog. And of course, then we've got all these strange weather anomalies and EMF readings. I mean, whatever that thing was. What's interesting, I should point out, is that when I was scanning around the area with an EMF meter and just trying to see if there was any radiation there at all, were there higher spikes of radiation in the area that we think, which at the time was like, this is the area you say it impacted? Okay, let's scan around it and see what we find. Didn't find really anything. There was just like normal background or zero anyway. But as soon as you get into the area where we suspect that this is because at the time I was suspecting this is the impact, but now I know it is because of the investigation. But the radiation, especially in the magnetic field range, would just go up, and it's like, well, what's going on here then? All the rest of these areas are fine, but as we look in the area which something has clearly affected it, strange weather, broken trees, burns, weather phenomenon, and all this other stuff, it's very strange. I should point out also that there's a road that runs just further down, and it has a little bend on it like that. It's a bit of a clearing just further down from the impact area. We actually found EMF trail going down the road, and I was like, no, why is that happening? Why is there like a trail leading around this area here? And what's interesting is that we know one of the Chinooks was taking off from RAF St. Athan and going over to this place and making regular sorties at least 3 or 4 times, because we've got its timestamp and tail number from these what do you call them? These sort of like people who watch military aircraft, like train spotters and plane spotters. And they've got radios and scanners that can tell you what the tail numbers are, and they monitor those places 24/7 to see, just for the fun of it. But it helps us a lot because it tells me what vehicle was moving in and out. And it was clear
for the audience. I just want everybody to understand a Chinook is the huge transport helicopter that's twin rotors. It's got a rotor on the back and a rotor on the front. And those things are not small.
No.
Okay, you can transport a lot of stuff. And to bring in a Chinook, that's pretty significant. They were moving something. You don't bring that in for observation. You're doing something else. You're moving debris.
Well, this is where we get into something more interesting now. David, the other witness, that's just an anonymous name. It's not his real name because he doesn't want to come forward at this time. But he said he was watching in that area and he could see a Chinook was going back and forth. It's in his original statements. And it was being followed by 2 Apache helicopters, and it had something in its undercarriage, obviously carrying it to and from this area. Now, what's interesting? Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because it tells me they've transported something out of there. Whatever that thing was, they've taken it from there and probably moved it over to RAFs in Athens for later transport, because this information came to us when we actually when the investigation was really starting to gain some traction. Someone had sent us a picture of a plane called ZE-700. Its call sign was either Kitty or Kitty Hawk. Now, this is one of those top military royal family, prime ministerial planes. Only the top brass people get on it. You don't just have any regular person or any regular army person or regular politician fly this thing. It's for the top brass only. And this plane comes in the afternoon, sometime like 5 p.m. And what's interesting is the Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron at the time, is in Caerphilly, which is just down the road from Pentyrch. We also know that now King Charles was also in South Wales at the time as well. He was doing a tour through here. And even Prince William was in the area. So you've got 2 prominent members of the royal family, the leader of the country, all in this one area, just a few hours after this incredible event has taken place. And I know that plane took off and went over to America because of what we call this. It's what they call the ICAO number. It's like the International Call Out Organization or something. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's like a code you patch in, and it sends off a signal, tells you where you are. It's like a area code for a phone, but it works with the plane. It tells you where you're going and where you are. And this thing went off to America, and then the very next day the plane came back, and then pretty much went back to the RAF base in North Island. According to everyone who knows about these planes, this plane doesn't just come here for no reason. It does it for specifically special reasons, and I can't think of any more special reason than a UFO that they've recovered. Obviously, they want to obviously observe. They obviously know about this stuff. Now, something else I'd like to point out, just to try and cram this in, is that we had a website called Politicite write 2 articles, and according to a military whistleblower, he said that there was something taken to RAF Patterson Air Force Base or something like that, and off of one of those Globe C-17 big, huge transport planes that they have, there was a flatbed truck that came out the back of it, and it had something under it that was apparently very, very, very hush-hush. You weren't supposed to know about it, and there was some information in there that we've never revealed before. This person said it was like a white flatbed truck or something. So how do you know that? Because we don't even know who this person is, but he's obviously contacted this website. So it's clearly obvious to me that I reckon they've taken it over there. That's the place you would take it, to America, because that's where all this stuff is usually back engineered or studied. And if this means anything, it looked like Barack Obama, just a few months after the event, made an unscheduled trip over to the United Kingdom. Normally, he comes to the G7 or NATO meetings or the royal family or one of those presidential, special meetings that they have. But he came over on May of that year just to see the royal family and the prime minister. But it wasn't like I don't believe it was an official meeting. So what was he discussing? Do you know?
Yeah, very strange. Let's take our break right here. Gari Jones is our guest. We are talking about the Pentyrch UFO incident. Happened on February 26th. Well, it was a 2-3 day event back in 2016. It's a modern event. It's an incredible incident. More with Gari when we come back. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now.
My job is not to preach. My job is to take you on this journey.
In a state of passion, nothing negative can happen.
That it's the moons of those planets that would have life.
Sometimes I see, these energies also in your field.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. This is Jimmy Church. Please visit and explore Egypt this October 3rd through the 14th, 2024 with Billy, Elizabeth, myself, and very special guest, Matt LaCroix. It's simple to do. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com and click on upcoming tours, or click on the link below. We'll see you there. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. And right now, if you get a Game Changer membership for a limited time, you will get Fade to Black Blend coffee with your Game Changer membership. That's right. We have 2 t-shirts. We have the original, the classic Fade to Black t-shirt. You know you want one. Post a picture. Send it to us. We'll put it in our Fade to Black gallery. And we've got the new official Fade to Black t-shirt drawn by Michael Oming. 2 t-shirts, 2 ways to get them. Get yours today. Everything is in stock. Everything gets autographed. Everything includes shipping. And you're going to get a tracking number. And with the Game Changer membership, you get an email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads of the show. Those are uploaded every single night after the show to the website. So don't delay. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Gari Jones is with us live from Wales, United Kingdom. We're talking about the Pentyrch Incident that happened on and around February 26, 2016 in Wales over in the United Kingdom. And getting back to it, Gari, there's so much to talk about here, but in the aftermath of this, there were reports of a debris field, a collection of metals that was removed from the site. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. That was Llantrisant Common. It's a piece of land which is behind the Royal Glamorgan Hospital and just a bit ways out from Smilog Woods. That's where I reckon the explosion has happened. But what's happened is that there's been like old bins and old refrigerators and old scrap metal and old, like, people have dumped their rubbish there and old settees and things. It's a lovely piece of land, but people mistreated it by dumping all this material on it, dumping all their old rubbish on it because they don't want to get rid of it via the normal way of taking it to a tip. So what's happened is it's been left there for years in many cases, and the council have been asked to clean it up, and they haven't even bothered to do it. But for some reason, following the hours after the explosion around Smilog Woods and what happened at Royal Glamorgan Hospital, they've decided to start collecting all the metal, all the rubbish that was on the common, and stack it up in neat little piles. And we say here, if there was a scrap van going by, people who like to collect metal and take it to a scrap yard to sell, you would have had a field day, because the military were doing all the work for them. But it's rather strange because it's not the military's job to clean up all this metal, but for some reason they decided to do so and take it all with them. And the joke is now, if you want to clean up your land, have the military come and host an exercise and they'll do it all for you for free. But I asked them in a FOIA request, why did you collect all this this metal? And when I got an answer back, they said Section 26, which in FOIA means they're not able to disclose that information because it's not in the public interest, or it's not meant for public disclosure. So in other words, mind your own business. But that doesn't make any sense. There's no need for them to do it. They didn't have to do it. So it's obvious to me they're cleaning the area up of all evidence of anything.
Does this indicate to you, like the way that it sounds, is that they shot down a UFO or two? Is that where this is headed?
Based upon the witnesses and the evidence we've collected, at least one has been shot down, yes.
In the initial description of the sighting, and I want to clear this up too as well, the object itself has been described as lighting itself up, and it had a rough surface to it. What was the shape of the object before the other objects came off of it? What was the general shape?
Well, the main craft was many hundreds of feet high and wide, and we've tried to estimate the size based upon the fields and how far it moved from here to there with the EMF trail and everything. I'm just going to say it was probably 700 feet on all sides in a sort of triangular pyramid type of shape. And that was the main craft with all the orange lights around the sides of it. But the other craft that came out of it, the ones that Kaz and David got a good view of were about the size of a small family car, like 15 feet. So pretty sizable. So they were like, they were the smaller ones, the whatever they were, but they were the ones that came out from inside the interior, in the interior of this thing. They didn't follow it. They came from inside and out and moved around the craft itself.
So the not to summarize, but to like put it all together, the AWACS, the E3s are circling for an extended length of time, apparently anticipating something going on. We have military ground traffic, trucks and whatnot moving through the area. Then as it got dark, this giant at night, this pyramid shaped craft that is illuminated on all sides moves into the area, being followed by military helicopters and other aircraft at the same time. And the craft then lights up, like it illuminates itself so you can see the sides of the craft. This is before the barrel-shaped objects came out from underneath it. But it illuminated itself for an instant, didn't it?
For a few seconds. I don't know how long the discharge lasted, but it was like a good few seconds. And during that time, this is, as Kaz has described it to me, you could see the surface of this triangular pyramid craft. And it looked like it had a rough sort of rocky like surface to it. That's the only way I can describe it. I mean, if you ever get Kaz on, which I believe she may be coming on sometime, she can describe it better. But it wasn't like a solid, smooth, flat surface. It had a sort of like rocky sort of surface to it.
That's very interesting to me. That's a very, very interesting description. And for you as an investigator, what goes through your mind? I'm picturing something traveling through space for an extended period, that kind of surface to it. That's what it reminds me of, but that's my science fiction imagination taking off. But what does that say to you?
Well, it's just the size of this thing and how it's moved silently, and the fact that it's got these at least 15 to 20 car-sized barrel things inside of it, and it can just give off that kind of energy to stay afloat without the need of, the way we imagine propulsion. It's clearly a technology that I don't believe we have. We may have something that can replicate anti-gravity, but on that scale, no, I'm not convinced of that.
Yes, and so the and to continue, does when you use the word discharge, which I like, I want to know why you use that word discharge. The craft it starts to descend, and how close to the ground was it before the barrels came out? Because that's when the discharge happened, right? And also, and this is just me asking, did it turn itself off? Did it try to hide?
Based upon what I've been told and what I've learned, it looked like it turned its lights off, and the green barrel that came out first, the one that was acting, I describe it as a recon thing, like it was keeping watch. That one obviously got in front of the planes that were coming into the area where this thing was and flashed those free strobe lights, right?
Right.
Now, that's taking the planes to the northwest. Now, before that, the craft has come in, the lights have come on, it's moving across the field, and at some point while it's nearly touching the ground, I don't know which one exactly came first yet, because like I said, Kaz saw the energy discharge coming out of the corner, right? Mm-hmm. David was watching the top of it, because according to them both, if you looked at the top, you couldn't see the bottom. You're looking at the bottom, you can't see the top. So it's probably happening simultaneously as it's discharging. The barrels are coming out, or the barrels have come out first and the energy discharge just happened very quickly afterwards. I don't really know. I didn't see it myself, but based upon...
Wait. Okay, I thought the barrels came out of the bottom. So the barrels came out of the top.
No, the energy discharge came out the bottom, on the corner, as it was nearly touching the ground. But the barrels were coming out of the top because David was watching the top of it, and Kaz was watching it look like it was going to land. Yeah.
How crazy is that?
It's little details like that get people a bit, not intentionally mixed up, but it's hard to understand sometimes.
Right. So we have one green one and a dozen or so red barrels that
red and green barrel ones, yeah.
And was there one green or was it a mix of both?
I guess from as Dave has described it, it was a mixture of both. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and so what happened to the craft itself? I'm gonna go with mothership. Okay, let's go with mothership for now. The discharge happens, then what?
Well, as the discharge happens, sometime just after that, Kaz is on the gate, and the sequence is the planes have come in. The green barrel that I said came out first and acted like the recon has come in front of it and flashed 3 very bright strobes at it, brighter than the moonlight, as Kaz has described, and lit up these planes very clearly. It's like, okay, come with me, follow me, it's saying, and it took those planes away from the area. Now, as Kaz has looked back, the lights on the craft have gone out. You can't see it. But I think the red barrels and the green ones that came out of it as well, they're still around there. Now, I don't know exactly at this point what the craft was doing, but we know from witnesses in Colwinston. Now, this is something I need to just clarify quickly. We know that there are witnesses in an area called Colwinston that looks from where Pentyrch is. They would be southwesterly on the map. And they said, according to them, they have got photographs and videos of this, but we've never been able to get our hands on the video. But according to them, this thing was moving in more or less going in the direction, it seems, of where Llantrisant and Smilog Woods is. So whether it was heading in the same direction to go and pick up its greener object, I don't know. I can only tell you what we've been able to learn. But yeah, it does seem to me that this thing stuck around for a while. It was just not able to be seen because obviously it turned its lights off.
Right. You're answering my question before I can ask it. So let me. I love that. We're on the same page. Did Kaz, after the discharge happened, its lights go out? This is we're talking about, like the Great Pyramid, right? It's something of that size. Did it vanish? I mean, did it vanish, or was it just too dark to see? It seems like it's pretty massive, and you would see it leave the area. So, and from Kaz's point of view, did it seem to vanish, or she just didn't see it?
Well, it turned its lights off, and it looked like it vanished, I guess, but it was so dark. But at the same time, those other barrels, like I said, they're actually focusing on them now because they're the ones they can see. At this point, I do know that Dave has jumped the gate, started to run over to the fields, and he has to come back. Kaz is like, come back, like, I will watch it from a distance. But the 2 barrels at this point have now come over to them, so their focus is on this.
Right.
So whatever that thing's doing, they're not able to see it as clearly as you think because their focus is on all this other stuff that's going on now, of course. So, yeah.
Now, back to this image here. Let me pull this up. This is Dave looking at the barrels. And for clarification, how far away was Kaz and Dave from the original pyramid?
From the distance of the field, it's about maybe 200 meters.
That's close.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Maybe just
right
over
there.
that.
And,
okay, that's Kaz on the gate, actually.
Okay, this is Kaz.
Yeah, this is a CGI rendition. It's a very good one, and I want to cover another slide after this just to show you the damage that these things did to the trees and the bushes for many months, years after.
We'll get to that in just a second. My question here is, there's the gate. There's Dave and Kaz down at the end of the gate on the right. You can see the Apache and the Red Bear. When Kaz is standing on the gate, which is here, everybody can see my mouse. How many feet away was the green barrel? And what are we talking about? You said that's about 15 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, just bear in mind now that is an artist's rendition, so it's open to their own interpretation. But when Kaz is describing it to me, and if you're listening to her in person, it's literally right above her. I mean, if she was a bit taller on the gate and stretched out, she probably would have been able to grab it or touch it.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's literally right. It's right next to her,
and no sound.
No sound, or no sound that could be heard. But she describes the way inside it. It's like white noise on a screen, but it's turning inside, like it's moving. It's alive.
Right. How long total were they in contact with the barrels?
Oh, let me think now. It's been a while since I've been asked that question. We've gone on to so many other things. I would say they were probably there. This is just going off the top of my head. A few minutes.
Yeah. Long enough to know what they were looking at. Right. This wasn't an instant, but this went on for a length of time.
Yeah. This went on for only for a few minutes, but quick enough for it came over. They saw it. The one was over there. This one's gone from red to green, and obviously Kaz has felt the elevation through her body, the fear disappearing, and the voice that said, please tell the world what you saw. And then afterwards, the lights on them have sort of died down a bit, I guess. And the one's gone over to a place called Garth Mountain, flown in that direction. The red one's gone back down the mountain where the 3 Apaches later on came in. So it's gone in that direction.
Incredible. Okay, here is a shot, the first shot of some of the damage. What are we looking at here?
Okay, to your left there is a bush of trees that has had its leaves rotted away, or they've died very quickly. And if you look where that is there, the barrel is right above that. That's where I got a hotspot signal for EMF in the magnetic field range. I even got radiation signals from there too. We've had a scientist, nuclear engineer kind of person tell us that there is beta radiation that was present in the area, would you believe it? But what I'm showing you there is the bush. That bush would not grow tidy for like 3 years. If leaves did start to grow in it in spring, they were already dying in the summer, or they would not germinate at all. They wouldn't flourish. If you look over to the other side of it, you'll see that they're sort of brownish and very orangey color on the middle part of the image there. To your left, Jim. Yeah, like there. Look, that's sort of like and if you go over to the other image, it's the same thing, and it just shows this pattern where in the center of it they're dead, and as you branch out from that area, they get a bit brown and yellow, and then as you get further away from that, they're all fine. It's only in this one area and by the tree by the gate where you're seeing this. There should be another image there if you can click onto it. Yeah, there's the opposite side of it. Look, you can see the same thing happening again. That bush is dead. It just would not grow tidy for many years. After a while, it seemed to repair itself, or whatever the EMF or the radiation or energy from the craft had done. it had basically dissipated enough for this thing to regrow, and it's fine now. It grows perfectly well. But you can see the same pattern on the leaves to the left. Look, it's the closer ones to it are sort of like dying off a lot quicker or losing their there's a chemical inside of a plant it's called chlorophyll. It's what gives it the green shininess.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears to me that it's losing that chemical a lot quicker, or it's not able to have it inside of the plant itself as much in order for the leaves to grow properly on it. It's like it's stunted the growth of the plant. And there's a picture of a tree there. I want to show you that. This is just more examples of what I'm saying. You've seen the images of where these things were. There's the gate. Kaz is talking to a man named Ben Emlyn Jones of Hospital Porters Against New World Order. I think he has. If you look above there, look, I want to show you right above. Do you see the orange side?
Mm-hmm.
Now you see the green side.
Right.
If you look at where the lock on the gate is, say, to the left of the man standing next to Kaz, you can see, right there, look. Right now, go above that. Go above it. And that's where the barrel was in there. And you can see where the light has shined off of it and the energy that it gave off. It's affected that right side, on the right image side of the tree. It's stunted the leaves. It's made them lose their color a lot quicker. And this was a similar pattern in the ball patch area, that where the hand of lightning came down, the plants would not grow. They just wouldn't. They stunted their growth. It's like when the flowers are supposed to seed and they're supposed to germinate, they just wouldn't do it. The trees up in Smilog, which I showed you earlier, they're dead. The leaves on them are dead. You know, they look like they've got that EMF damage you see with trees next to telephone poles. They're brown. They're dead. They don't grow. And there's just one more slide, if you can bring it up, the radiation report there. Yeah. I put this in because this is something I personally felt. When I'm scanning the field, when I'm looking for the radiation, when I'm trying to ascertain whether or not there's higher levels in the areas where these craft had been seen than the surrounding areas, which I did ascertain very, very clearly, I was getting ill. And many people who came with us to examine the fields too would spend some time in the active radioactive areas, and they got ill too. And many of the symptoms are what you see there. You heart palpitations, burning skin, headaches, nausea, sensitivity to light. I had this at least 5 or 6 times. I mean, it was that bad, right? My skin was turning red, like on my arm and face. And if you had your finger, like, you know, like your little index finger, then you just went like that, nice and softly along it, it felt like somebody was cutting me with a razor or something very sharp. It was not nice. And, you know, I lost my appetite for a while. And just as quickly as it came on, it went. It was like someone throwing a cold bucket of water over your face. It just seemed to refresh you and everything was fine then. It was very strange. And it does fit in with this Defense Intelligence reference document here. Anomalous acute and subacute field effects on human biological tissues. And I've highlighted a port there. It says related to electromagnetic radiation. And this is something that is very, very well documented in other sightings too.
Yeah, when this report came out, I remember specifically calling John Burroughs. I picked up the phone and called John, and we read through. I said, this report is interesting, but it's this one paragraph right here that says investigates injuries to human observers by anomalous advanced aerospace systems. And I said, wait a minute. What this is saying is that they know that UAPs and contact with UAPs is causing injuries to humans. And they have previous data and incidents to collect. And they're reporting on this. This isn't something new. They're stating it this way in this report, that this is happening over and over again. There isn't another way to read through the report, is there?
No, it's an official document from a defense department of the United States government and the militaries. I mean, they know the effects these things have. They know that it's causing a lot more than what it says there. And I mean, I should point out that Kaz Clark did have 3 polygraph tests, and she passed every single one of them. And if I had more time, I'd go into this, but she fought like hell to get those tests done. She was promised by someone that they would test her, but they wouldn't give her the result that she wanted. He was deliberately going to fail her, because I heard him say it. Not he was going to deliberately fail her, but he wouldn't give her the result she was looking for, because to me, he didn't want to test her. But finally, she got someone named Carrie Austin from a local PI group who does she's pretty much the leading person when it comes to for polygraph testing. Practically writes the book on the thing. She's hired by governments to screen people, for any signs of what's the word I'm looking for? Deception. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Kaz took 3 of these, passed every single one of them. But what was discovered is in her derma waves, which are like the electrical waves on the brain, like the sac or the neural paths in your brain there. They're normally supposed to be like randomish or fluctuating, but Kaz's were very, what's the word? They kept a similar pattern, a similar wave. Her delta waves have been changed, and this is from Carrie Austin, who knows about this stuff. And that to me is only possible if it had to have been from, I say, from the green barrel when it came into close contact with him. And these things have tremendous effects on plant life, farm life, anywhere in the countryside where there's soil, trees, farmland. They get close enough or they land, they affect that stuff. But if a human gets close to them as well, they too get ill. And I suffered this myself a few times when I was initially doing the EMF scans there. So this cannot be made up. You're not going to make this up. Either, as we say, me and Kaz have said, I said, either you are, a person who knows how to fake putting radiation in a field and then somehow get the military to respond to you when you just want them to have a bit of fun in your area, or this is the absolute truth. And it is. This happened. The Pentyrch Incident happened. There's no other way to describe it.
Now, what there must be radar data. There's radar systems all over the United Kingdom. And to have the craft come in and the other military craft that were there. What about that? What about the radar information?
The only 2 planes I could get radar information for were the military spotter planes, the ZZ418 and the ZG996. Those are the RAF and the Army Air Corps planes that were taken in turns to circle in the days before. One circling, the Army one was doing like figure 8s or like loops, like the infinity number 8 sign or whatever. It was doing that. As for the other aircraft, I have not been able to locate radar data, but what I have got is their ICAO data, some of it, but especially with I know what aircraft came that night because of the RAF St. Athens military plane watcher people who do this for a hobby. That's the only way I got this information. Otherwise, I would have never have known. Oh, I want to say something. Sorry, I meant to say this. The website I used was planespotter.net. That actually had radar data that went back 7 years. You could go back as far as 7 years, no problem, no subscription. It would just let you do it. As soon as we started using the radar information for the 2 planes, right? Suddenly, as we've gone public with it, they've changed the way they operate. They only offer then you a week from 7 years. And if you pay a subscription, they'll only let you go back 1 year. It's like you've basically decided that you don't want that information out there now in case somebody clicks on here. So that never happened before. They changed the way they operated as soon as they found out we were using that information to. So it's clearly someone is involved in either scrubbing information or having companies change the way they operate things, because websites are being deleted. Our FOIs are being deleted. Any minuscule piece of information that was on a website is now gone. Luckily, we backed them up. And I got to tell you, if there's nothing to this, why are they lying about it? Why are they trying to cover it up? And why is it, they now admit there was no exercise, as the Wales Online article originally said.
Well, they changed their story there. It was a military exercise, and then they said it was a terrorist, exercise for terrorists. And now it's either one or the other, but they couldn't keep their story straight. And now there was no military exercise.
That comes straight from the Defense Secretariat of the Ministry of Defense. I asked him to specifically answer it. I wanted to know why. Were there any military exercises, as in military on the ground? Were there any low-flying training air exercises, as in like aircraft flying low and practicing whatever? And were there any exercises of any kind, of any nature, from any of your departments in February 2016 for the South Wales area? That's Pentyrch and surrounding areas. Okay? And when I got a response, they said unequivocally that there were none of this happening in all of South Wales for February 2016. Now, I'm sorry, but you don't bring all that amount of ordnance, all that military firepower, all those assets on the ground, all that electronic surveillance equipment, all of this other stuff, and then have people lie about it during the time it's going on, and then clean up an area, threaten anyone who gets close to you, and then it doesn't happen. There was no exercise. You came here specifically for something that you knew was coming. And when we look at how Kaz Clark has never changed her story, David has never changed his story, we've got more witnesses coming forward now, and we've even now had an actual acknowledgement, not just from the MOD, but from the South Wales Police, because they kept telling us for a long time that it was a counter-terrorism exercise. Not a military, a counter-terrorism. So Kaz, and I've got to give her credit for this, she's got a brilliant legal mind, started looking at the way the FOI laws are written. So it's just, okay, we'll write this one, we'll have a look at that one, and then eventually it got to a point where we took it to the information complaints officer. These are the people who are in charge of the freedom of information laws. That if you've been denied access to the original information, you've gone through an internal review and they're still denying you what you think is lawful information for you to have, you can then go to the ICO and say, can you please take a look at this, because we feel we're being denied information that they should be able to give us without breaking any security laws. And eventually they got back to us and they said, the South Wales Police said that the Welsh Counter-Terrorism Unit have informed us that there were no counter-terrorism exercises for February 26. Now, this points something else out, and it happened by itself, but the Royal Mint is a building not too far from the Royal Glamorgan Hospital in the Smailog Woods area, right? Well, that's a heavily secure building. Money is printed there, with the royal family's images on it and everything. It's legal tender. They were informed when I asked them originally that the Welsh Counter-Terrorism Unit had told them that there was an exercise taking place. But now the police, many years later, after forcibly being told now they have to answer our requests, say that the Welsh Counter-Terrorism Unit said there was nothing taking place whatsoever. So there were no terrorism drills, there were no military drills. The military have changed their story with the police and all the other official bodies we've contacted. There was no exercises at all, Jimmy. They knew what it was coming. They wanted it. And yeah, I mean, me and Kaz Clark have been working together now on this for many years. What can I say? We've proven the case. We've uncovered the cover-up, and we've proven that this happened. So, because the official people can't answer us.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, something went on. We've got a combination of many things all happening at the same time. We have explosions. We have a building shaking. We have the eyewitness reports. We have the confirmation and denials from both the state and local level of activity in the area. We have that. We have the tail numbers of at least 2 planes that were circling in the area. So there was all of the. We've got a flaming Apache cockpit landing at Cardiff Airport. We have that going. We have all of these things happening at the same time. This is beyond coincidence. But the other part with this is there must be, with all of this, there must be video, images, and witnesses out there. Do you have additional video? Do you have images and video that we haven't seen yet? Do we have stuff coming in?
I can't say. I can't really say at the moment. There is a possibility of it, but I can't say at this moment.
Why?
Because at the moment, there's a process going on. It's being done quietly because we don't want to. I just can't go into it. I'm sorry, Jimmy. There's people who are involved who don't wish to be named, of course.
Sure, but you're saying
with the Colwinston one, we know they've got it because I don't want to name the group, this UFO group, because I've moved away from them. But we know that they verified photographs. They verified a video, which they said that we could have. We were then hopefully going to take that to a member of our parliament in Wales to then try and get some kind of disclosure happening. But since that time, where there's been a bit of a bust up between us and them, but mostly on their part, I'm not going to go into it. They've said they've got photographs and videos that confirm that this thing was there. And they won't give it to us. But all I can say is there's a possibility that someone else has got some. But we just don't know yet. I just don't know. We haven't got that information.
Are there efforts going on with Parliament and your local government about disclosure?
Yes, there is a petition out with the UK government. Me and Kaz Clark set it up. We wrote to them just to basically say, can you please initiate a process of disclosing information related to unidentified aerial phenomena, non-human intelligences? We feel with America now coming forward with the likes of David Grosh and people like that, we believe that we should be doing the same, because it's clear that these things either are a threat or you deem them a threat, because in the Condign report, they say they've no defense significance, so they don't deem them of any importance, but clearly they do, because you went about a hell of a lot of trouble to intercept what was coming here. And it's clear that the top brass of this country have a vested interest in it. Otherwise, why would you have why would you have 2 senior members of the royal family and the leader of the country at the time in the same area? I don't know if that's of any danger,
Well, it's certainly not a coincidence.
No.
And now I was just in London, and when I was there, and I spoke twice at 2 different events, and what I did, Gary, and especially this was 6 months ago. It wasn't very long ago, but I was very interested in at the civilian level. What is it that you guys are hearing from your media and your government versus what is going on over in the United States? Because in the United States, you turn on the TV, you read a news report, you look at Washington, D.C., and everything is UFOs all the time. Everything is UAPs. That's the conversation over here. It's our Congress, it's the Senate, it's the media, witnesses coming forward. And it seems that our military and elected officials are discussing this topic publicly out in the open. Is it going on over in the UK? So I was asking everybody I came in contact with. And the answer was, dude, we get our information from you. It's our government isn't talking about this over here, and the BBC isn't covering it. Why is it so different when normally the UK and the United States are in step with each other?
Do you know, Jimmy, over here, our government is useless. I hate to say it, but they are. They just don't listen to us. They don't listen to our minds. They don't listen to our petitions. They ignore our protests, and when it comes to the subject of UFOs, UAPs, disclosure, and everything else, you guys really are taking it that one step further. You're really bringing it out. But it's like over here, I actually wrote to a member of my parliament and had a few people follow suit with me, and they all got back to them and said, it's not something we are looking into right now, or they just won't answer it. It's not something of concern of theirs. There's nothing ever written about it in the media. There's nothing ever talked about in a newspaper. There's never anything discussed on the radio. And what really pisses me off is that we've got probably, I am going to say, probably the biggest case in the world right now, if not in the history of one of the biggest in the history of ufology. And yet not a single newspaper or TV station or anyone who's in like the BBC, ITV, Sky, or anyone of that significance has even bothered to come forward and ask us to say, could you at least tell us about this? It's guys like yourselves and women like Christina Gomez who pioneer the discussions of it. But in America, you are not just discussing it, you're actually saying, A, they're real. B, we've recovered these exotic craft, and we've recovered non-human intelligences, which is another just a nice way of saying aliens.
Right. What I found fascinating was I was interviewed by the BBC, and it seemed at the time. Now I'm not poo-pooing the situation, but it seemed at the time that they were, especially in the pre-interview, I said, look, man, this is not a laughing matter. This is like some certain, no, we're taking, Jimmy, no, we're taking this. Okay, all right. So they drilled me on camera. They wanted the sensational side of it. They wanted the soap opera side of this. Do you feel vindicated? Do you feel it? Do you feel it? Man, the disclosure is a long process. And no, we're not there yet. Do you think that we're there? Do you think that this is it? I said, I just answered that question. They came at me 5 times with the same question. And because I didn't give them what they wanted, it rubbed me the wrong way. And I went, now look, I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to elevate this into something that it is not. But it felt to me that's what they wanted sensational stuff. And I don't know, Gary, the difference between the way different media and governments handle it. Because of what's going on over here in the United States, that's enough to push this forward. But right now, you've got not only Pentyrch, but you've got Rendlesham. You've got 2 of the biggest cases ever in the history of the world right there in the United Kingdom. This should be a big issue for Parliament and the media.
Well, as you say, I mean, if they do write something about it, there's always a silly picture of an alien and a silly saucer with a dumb headline, spooky craft seen by whoever. Like when I mentioned my case one time, it was in the Daily Star, and people just said, "Oh, man sees UFO that looks like Knight Rider car," and I'm like, oh, for God's sake, you know what I mean? Why do you always turn it into some silly BS comical joke? You know, I mean, why can't you be more serious for once in your life? You've got the ability to just bring it out there and make it a big thing. I mean, even just you spend 1 hour talking about this stuff a week. I guarantee you, by the end of the month, people are all going to be like very fascinated and wanting disclosure to happen, because there's just so much going on here. But I don't know. They just don't seem to want. I've got to be honest with you. I just feel like our governments have totally been subverted by outside forces, because no one is listening at all.
And what about who's your prime minister right now?
Rishi Sunak, but I would say he's more like a stand-in prime minister. He wasn't elected. They had Liz Truss come in the same way. The party chose who they wanted, and Liz Truss was taken out, and then they put in Rishi Sunak. But I said, if you're actually going to have a new prime minister, shouldn't you get a vote on this? No, they just stuck him in.
Does the prime minister? The reason why I ask, I mean, I can't keep up with British politics. I try. I do. I just don't understand it. Does the prime minister have the juice to push disclosure forward in the way that the politics is organized in the United Kingdom? Does it happen at the local level, or does the prime minister have the juice?
Well, obviously, the buck stops with the prime minister at that level, yeah. But I mean, if there's going to be a process of disclosure, then the likelihood is, it's either going to be the prime minister and military personnel, but then that could also come from King Charles, because he's not just the sovereign of the United Kingdom. He's the he is sort of a commander, isn't he, of the armies. So I think it would probably come from him. He could Rishi Sunak may be authorized to do it, but I don't know if he would have the authority to push it as far as he wanted. I don't know how the process works. I mean, Trump signed an official order, didn't he, with an executive order, and he told the Pentagon you had to, or was it? Yeah, it was the Pentagon, to release, what you knew about certain things, and they came out with a report with UAPs. I believe Rishi Sunak could do something like that. Okay, you lot in the Ministry of Defense, please start this process. Tell us what you know. What's new. I think that way it could happen, but I don't know. It's
well. Once you guys get your signatures, where do you take that? Do you take that straight to Parliament? And I mean, how was that done?
Well, there's a thing. If it gets 10,000 signatures, the petition, there's a question that can be answered, because there's enough people asking. If it gets 100,000, I hope it does. It's got another 4 months to run. It can be debated in Parliament. They'll set a time,
right,
and a place, and it goes open for a debate. So, there'll be points of view argued from all the the MPs for the constituents of their areas. And that's obviously where it would go next. But we'll just have to wait and see how the petition goes.
Yeah, we have the same kind of setup over here. So, at 10,000, it's a certain level. You get to 100,000. It's the same thing. How many signatures do you guys have at the moment? And where can everybody go and sign the petition?
It's on a website called petitiongov.uk, I think it is. I'll send you the link anyway, but it's called, let me see if I can bring this up. I did send you an image of it. I don't know if you got it. Bear with me. There we go. At the current moment, it's got about 1,250 signatures, so it's not doing too well, even though I have actually put this out there to all these different UFO groups, all these different voices within, the leading voices of the communities. And although they've helped, I just don't understand what's going on. I mean, we were asked by so many people to do this in the comment sections of like videos that have hundreds of thousands or millions of views where the Pentyrch Incident has been discussed, and we say petitions coming out. Oh, I'd love to sign it, please. We're all signing. We're all in. And it's like, it's only got 1,250 signatures. But the website is the UK Government Parliament Petitions. And the title of it is Ensure Disclosure of Any Information on UAPs and Non-Human Intelligences. That's its title. I'll send you a link to that anyway so people can see it.
I've got it up already. It's right here. Petition Parliament.uk petition state open. I've got it. It's up in our chat. So everybody head over. The link is right there. Thank you, Bill. And head over and sign it. And now, where can everybody get you and Kaz's book?
It's available on Amazon. There it is, right there. That little image of the gate you saw earlier. That's the same one there. It's available on Amazon. Just type in the Pentyrch Incident. This one actually is all in color because it was necessary for people to see the colors of certain things in the images so that everyone can understand fully what you're looking at. It's doing very well on Amazon, actually. It's actually got something like 700, I think, reviews, and it's like 4.5 stars out of 5, so it must be doing very well. People are really enjoying it. But yeah, you can get it on Amazon, and I'm not sure exactly what it's going for at the minute, but I think it's like £16.
Okay, we've got the links up for that too as well. In addition to your YouTube channel and your Rumble channel, the links are below. Gary, keep doing what you're doing. Give our best to Kaz. I think Kaz was in the chat tonight. I'm not too sure, but I think she was there. But again, keep moving this forward. This is a huge case, and I really appreciate you taking the time tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Right there, Gari Jones. And now the links are below. We've got the petition up in the chat. And there you go. Fantastic show tonight. This is a huge case. And again, 2016, I say this so often, this is modern. This is now. Everything is in front of us. The data, the people, the witnesses. It is right in front of us. Fantastic case. Thank you, Gary. Perfect show tonight. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, John Aside. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Kevin. Webmasters, Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black of the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Preston Dennett is with us. We're talking about UFOs over our drive-in theaters. He's got over 100 reports of UFOs visiting our drive-ins. All of that and much more tomorrow night with Preston Dennett. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night, I want you to behave. Go Backley Tappy.